What's up, Sneaky Nation? Sneaky P here, chilling on some Madden, but I am here to give y'all my reaction to the Khalil Mack trade that is reportedly going to go down probably later today. I don't know. I know all the details aren't out for it yet, and I haven't really done videos like this. I always give everybody my reaction in streams and stuff like that, but I'm really trying to get my YouTube going. I'm trying to do some different things on it. So hopefully this is the video you guys are interested in, and if it is, let me know, and I can make some more videos like this. But for the trade itself, Khalil Mack going to the Bears, it is completely wild to me, guys. We've been talking about this, and I've said over and over, I don't think there's any chance they are actually going to trade him. I thought they were bluffing. I thought they were just trying to play hardball and then maybe cave at the very last moment when they don't really have another choice. And, you know, reports started getting stronger last night, and I'm like, maybe they're serious. And then for a trade to go down today is completely wild. You don't see players like Khalil Mack traded often, if ever. I don't know that you've ever seen a defensive player like him in the prime of his career traded like this. I'm sure it's happened at some point, but it's slipping my mind right now. But first, let's go ahead and talk about this from the Chicago Bears perspective. And I think they 100% knocked this out of the park. A great trade for the Bears. And giving up 2 first-round picks and players to be named. We don't know who these players are yet, so maybe this will change a little bit, but I doubt it. To give up 2 first-round picks is a huge, huge thing in the NFL. But if you are sitting on the #1 overall pick, you are praying that you are going to be able to draft a player like Khalil Mack. I mean, that's the goal right there. So the value, I mean, it's great. They got themselves a superstar player and added him to Roquan Smith and a lot of other good players on this Bears defense. And I am excited. And the reason I think they can spare these 2 first-round picks is they added so many players this offseason. They did exactly what they needed to do. They added Allen Robinson. They added Trey Burton. They added Taylor Gabriel. And that is what this team needed. You know, Mitchell Trubisky last year had 0 weapons to work with. They went out this offseason. They brought in some weapons. They got that offense going. They drafted Roquan Smith in the 1st round, who I am very high on. And now to get Khalil Mack, I mean, they just hit the fast forward button on this rebuild, and I am thrilled for them. There are concerns here, and it's not anything to do with the Khalil Mack trade, really. It's just the Bears in general. Mitchell Trubisky did not look good last year, and if you guys know me at all, you guys know that I will defend a young quarterback thrown into a terrible situation. If you throw out a quarterback with no chance to succeed, don't be surprised when they fail. And you see it happen year after year where a rookie fails his rookie season because he really didn't have any path to success and everybody calls him a bust, blah, blah, blah. And you see the same thing happening with Trubisky right now. The thing I will say, though, even though I typically defend those young quarterbacks, and I still will defend Trubisky for last season because he had 0 weapons, really. Obviously, he had Howard and Cohen, but I'm talking about, like, legit receivers. But one thing I will say, despite the terrible situation that he was in, even in that bad situation, he kind of underperformed in my eyes. I don't know how much of that's on coaching, how much on that was on him, but pretty much all of the pieces have come together for him to be successful this year. They bring in an offensive-minded coach with Nagy. I think that is a huge pickup for them, and I think he's going to do a great job of putting Trubisky in situations where he can succeed. They brought in some great weapons. We already talked about that. The receiving weapons to go along with an already great running back tandem in Howard and Cohen. This offense has everything it needs to go forward. Now, the defense, they picked up Roquan Smith. They're bringing in Khalil Mack. All of a sudden, the defense has a lot of pieces needed. This is by no means a perfect team, but they are definitely heading in the right direction. So, where I see them right now, though, is can this team make the playoffs? I don't know that they're there yet. They're definitely close. They weren't close at all. I saw no chance they made the playoffs before this trade. Now, all of a sudden, I think they have gotten a lot closer. Whenever you add a superstar like that, things can change overnight. But it's a very difficult path for them. The reason being the NFC is so incredibly strong right now. There are so many teams I think you can just straight up pencil into the playoffs. Obviously, things can change dramatically. Injuries can happen. Sometimes teams just fall off out of nowhere when you are not expecting it. Anything can truly happen in the NFL from one year to the next. But if I'm looking at it right now, the Eagles are guaranteed in the playoffs. The Vikings are probably in the playoffs. The Rams pretty much guaranteed in the playoffs. And I don't see any way the Saints don't really make the playoffs, although who knows. I mean, you got those 4 teams out of the gate. Then you got to look at the teams that are competing for the playoffs with them. I'm definitely looking at the Atlanta Falcons. I could see them doing better this season. I could see the Panthers back there. Wouldn't shock me if they missed the playoffs either, but, you know, they were there last year. They have a good team. If Cam Newton goes off again, I could certainly see them being there. There's some other teams as well. I don't really see another team from the NFC West making it. The Packers, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers. I don't really like that team as a whole, but I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers will likely find a way to get that team to the playoffs. Don't think they'll have a lot of success there. And, you know, it's just a really strong conference. So where do I see a path for the Bears to make the playoffs this year? I'm not sure I do. That could change. If Mitchell Trubisky comes out and kills it this season, they could definitely shock some people and find their way into the playoffs. However, I would think it's more likely that they just improve a lot this season and then next year being the playoff goal for them. But definitely changes things within the NFC. They are definitely in that conversation now. It's just a matter of how much Trubisky is going to step his game up. If he can, this could definitely be a pretty scary team. And it certainly will in a few years from now. But for the Bears, A+, knocked it out of the park. Love the trade for them. Going over and looking at it from the Raiders' point of view, they are getting blasted on all angles from everything I have been reading. And understandably so. You don't trade a superstar player that's only 27 years old. It's near unheard of in the NFL. But I am going to defend them a little bit here. Not a whole lot. I'm not by any means saying, hey, the Raiders made a wonderful trade here. I'm just going to look at this from a different perspective, and I've tweeted about this a little bit, because at first I thought they were crazy, and I still kind of think they're crazy, but if we are looking at this realistically right now with the Raiders roster with Khalil Mack, how far do we see this team going? I don't see them going very far. I think absolute best case scenario, maybe squeak into the wild card and probably get eliminated there. That's the best case. I don't think they were going to make the playoffs this year. Derek Carr has kind of underperformed. I know injuries have played a factor with this, but it's still, I want to see more from him than what we have seen. At least last year. Amari Cooper, same thing. You know, he's had some different factors that have kind of slowed him down a little bit, but he just has not developed the way I would be hoping if I were a Raiders fan. So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the rest of that roster. I don't think they're very good. I don't. And they are a team that could have had a quick turnaround. If Derek Carr got back on form and, you know, Amari Cooper became that legit true #1 wide receiver, they could have been a decent team on a decent path. I don't think they would have been much this year, but they could have maybe next year if they made good moves next offseason, maybe the offseason after that, whatever. But that is assuming everything goes right. And it doesn't always happen like that in the NFL. Anything can happen, right? One year a team will not look very good. The next year they come out, they look great. It could have happened overnight, but it's kind of a thing that I don't really feel like you should rely on, especially when the signs aren't looking good. And I don't think the signs were looking very good for the Raiders. So, if I'm looking at the Raiders and I'm coming in and I'm like, what type of future does this team have? And it does not look very bright. In my mind, by the time it takes to really build that team up to a potential Super Bowl contender, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a few years at least, and again, that's kind of if everything's going right. So hypothetically, let's say they are able to do this in 3 or 4 years. At that point, Khalil Mack is 30, 31. Now, I expect he will still be very productive at that age. A lot of pass rushers are. But I think he'd start to slow down a little bit. He would definitely be exiting his prime. So if you're looking at it and you're like, man, maybe the timeline of what we look at our future success and the timeline of where will Khalil Mack be at that stage, maybe they didn't see it lining up. And if that's the case, shipping him off for a killer package, 2 first-round picks, and more that we don't even know about yet. This could be a significant player. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just an average prospect. We don't know yet. But those 2 first-round picks alone, that is putting a rebuild in hyperdrive that is saying, look, this team wasn't going to get it done. Let's cut our losses now. Let's hit the reset button and get back at it next season. And if they can do well with these draft picks, which is always going to be the case, obviously, with any team, do well with your draft picks, you'll have success. But they're going to have 4 first-round draft picks coming up. And I assume 2 years. I don't know if there's like a gap year where they got it 3 years from now instead, or if it's back-to-back years. I'm not sure. But let's say it's the next 2 years. You have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years to use as ammunition. They can turn that team around quickly and start building that foundation up to a team that might be more successful down the line than what the current Raiders path projected to be, at least for me. Not saying that's going to be the case. A lot of variables. They're going to have to do well with their draft picks, but I can at least understand that point of view if they were looking at it in that way. It's still a wild move to me. I don't think I would have done it if I were the Raiders, mostly because I feel like that sends a terrible message to the players right now. And it sends a bad message for a few reasons. For one, it says you're willing to take a step back this year, which I can't imagine players are excited about, trading away your best player like that. But also, depending on the circumstances, players might look at this and they might be like, man, this guy did everything for this team and they weren't willing to pay him. Is this a team I can see myself growing with? Now, that's probably a reach. I have no idea what players are thinking, but wouldn't shock me if that were the case. You saw last year with the New York Giants that, you know, players started quitting on that team. Different reasons, obviously, but not every player has that mentality that I am going to go out there and just give this team everything I have every week. The reality is not every team, not every player is like that. And I could definitely see that kind of like putting some doubt in the players' minds right now for the Raiders. I could be very wrong. Who knows? Maybe they still think they're going to make the playoffs or whatever. But it's a weird message to send. That's one reason I don't think I would do it. The other is kind of, obviously the fans are going to be upset about it. But I think the fans will get over this. For one, they're moving to Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, they're going to be thrilled to get a team regardless of whether or not Khalil Mack is there. But also, every fan gets excited about their first-round draft picks. And with the Raiders starting to pump them through like crazy now, you're going to have 2 first-round picks next season. I could definitely see that building excitement with the fans again. So, it's a weird move for the Raiders. It definitely takes them a step back right now. It could end up working out for them in the long haul, though. It's a very risky trade to make. They have a lot of faith in their ability to build this team from scratch, and we'll have to see how it plays out. So even though it doesn't look like a very good trade right now for the Raiders, I would not be shocked at all if this ended up being a good move for them in the long term. But right now the jury is very much out on that, whereas the Bears hit it out of the park. Home run, clear winner of this deal for the time being. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the trade. I know I don't do a whole lot of videos like this. Again, guys, if this is something you would like to see more on this channel, please let me know, because I'm really trying to branch out and try new things. And I really want to get more into just talking football. I don't want everything to be about Madden or gameplay, even though obviously I'm going to be continuing that. But just something a little bit different. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you did. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I would love to know. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.